Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and boy oh boy, that game industry really wants GTA 6 costing $100. It could even reward players, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as somebody that loves playing video games, I can't deny but tell people that it can be a pretty expensive hobby, depending on how far you get into it, right? Are you buying a high-end PC game or high-end PC system? Are you buying that PlayStation Pro? Are you buying like pretty much everything? You can make this probably one of the cheapest entertaining hobbies, or you can make it super expensive, right? Like think about it for a minute. You go to the movies and you watch a movie for like $20 at minimum 10 to 20, whatever the price of admission is, and that lasts you what, 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours if you're watching a feature-length movie. But if you buy like a video game that's like hundreds of hours of long for like $40, $60, that's literally like, cents per hour of actual game time that you're getting, which is not really all that bad. But how many games are truly worth hundreds of hours of your time and the full $60 price tag? I'd probably wager not a whole heck of a lot. Now, earlier, like around this year, people were kind of coming around. A lot of these groups were really bringing up the idea of Grand Theft Auto costing $100, or you sort of heard these rumors. There's no actual like idea of this, but the general belief is that if one game costs $100 in the AAA space, then every single other AAA publisher can go like, yeah, maybe we can also charge $100 too. So again, a lot of this comes from MBAs and like, money, financial people that like to look into the gaming industry and basically equate it to pretty much any other form of analysis they can do. For instance, the Wedbush analysts here point to how Call of Duty Warzone and mobile, so we're combining both the free-to-play mobile and of course the free-to-play console, kind of different markets into one, have helped lead to a 40% increase in sales of Call of Duty Premium. So that's $60 version of Call of Duty that comes out every goddamn year. Through Activision, Microsoft hasn't confirmed those figures, of course. Obviously, they have not. These people are kind of just talking out of their ass, as many analysts in this group do. Take-Two can utilize similar integration to boost GTA 6 sales. Really? Where's the free-to-play Grand Theft Auto that I've been seeing on the online storefront? Where's any of that? I wouldn't know. So in one of these notes, the game company can offer consumers an incentive to pay $100 or more by rewarding them with large amounts of the in-game currency to be spent in GTA Online. So you buy Grand Theft Auto for $100, we'll give you like $50,000, which is fucking nothing, of GTA Online currency credited to your account. Effectively, costing the company literally nothing. Now, should video games cost $100? Probably no, but I would argue that video games have actually started to cost over $100. Now, one of the things I wanted to kind of do for any of this was researching like what video games used to cost back in the day. Now, there's actual like, historical record. I mean, I'm old enough to remember games used to cost $50, okay? That would be games back in the day on the PlayStation 2 all the way up to like PlayStation 1, right? Now, obviously $50 back in the day, we're going to use something known as the US inflation calculator. I'm only going to calculate this in US dollars because it's very simple. Obviously, there's a million currencies around the world. You can convert alongside watching this video to whatever currency you're into, okay? So back in the year 1995, for instance, and all the way to 2025, if we decided to put in, I don't know, $50, that $50 would be equated to $104 right now. That is, again, without anything involving sales tax or any form of taxes whatsoever. That's just like what $50 used to cost back in the day. A $50 bill back in 95 used to be worth to a $100 bill nowadays, okay? So gaming back in the day wasn't cheap or anything, okay? Anybody that tells you, games used to not be $60, yeah, they weren't $60 back in the day. But factor in inflation. It's like when your great-great-grandpa's like, back in the day, my groceries used to cost me 25 cents. Yeah, well, back in the day, 25 cents could get you a whole lot more, okay? Cars used to cost $1,000. Now, times are a lot different than they used to be. So obviously for video games back in the day that cost $50, I wanted to look into, again, just old gaming magazines. So old gaming magazines used to have like really badass like advertising, by the way. All those in favor of gun control, please skip this ad. It's just an ad for a shooter on the 3DO. What a system, dude. But of course, if you look into the actual back of some of these like gaming magazines, you always used to have these advertisements for people who were just selling like direct to order like games. So whether you buy it for the Segas, the SNES, the 3DO, they give you the whole prices right here. Now, in US dollars, okay, it seems that buying Doom on the SNES, which by the way is like objectively one of the worst fucking ways to play that game, I'd argue the only worst way to play that game would be playing Doom in a PDF file, okay? That would be about it. That game cost $69, dude, USD. Now, if we go back to the old inflation calculator over here, good old $69 back in 1995, based on when this game magazine is, 143 fucking dollars, dude. 143. Now, even like looking into games like Chrono Trigger, for instance, as well too, back in the day, I believe that there were reports, like there were some users saying that games like Chrono Trigger ended up costing around $79. So then just increase the price appropriately, right? You get it. It's actually fucking wild. And again, these were all sourced from actual game magazines you could dig up back in the day. Now, obviously, games back then used to also cost a fair bit to make too, if you actually factored in their development budgets with inflation now. So a game like Final Fantasy VII, which obviously might not look that intense compared to a game released nowadays, obviously involved companies like Squaresoft spending a boatload of money for the top-of-the-line technology to help develop the game, then also to market the game and sell it. So yeah, games used to always be expensive to produce, but they also were expensive back in the day to buy. That's the whole point of what I'm doing here. So of course, even down the road, when games became $60, it was typically around the time of the actual Xbox 360. So this game you're seeing over here, Gun, for the Xbox 360, it might look like Red Dead Redemption Lite, but back in 2006, this shit was the bomb. And it used to be one of the first $60 games, okay? Not every game back in the day was $60, but generally speaking, some of the most premium stuff was $60. And of course, there were still $50 games. But yes, the price jumped up $10. Now, obviously, with the PS3, PS4 generation, that price went from $60 all the way up to $70 per new release. And nowadays, if you go buy a game in today's day and age, you're looking at an 80 USD release. To the point where if you want to buy something like, I don't know, Assassin's Creed Shadows, in Canada, it's $90 if you just buy the very base version. If you buy the digital deluxe or whatever, that shit is $120, okay? Insanity, obviously. And of course, that's before shit like taxes get thrown your way. Now, the thing about it is, like, games have naturally just been getting more and more expensive, right? Like, it seems like every generation, the frog keeps going up, right? It goes from like $10 around every generation on average, it seems, and that's pretty much what it is. But gaming back in the day used to be like a complete game in a box. In fact, even during the 360 era, it was mostly a complete game in the box. Even in the PS4, especially towards the early generation, it was a complete game in a box. But obviously, with advents of microtransactions, season passes, battle passes, every avenue of monetization has effectively hit gaming like a dump truck. And even if you look at games now, like Assassin's Creed Shadows, for instance, great example. You go to Ubisoft's like actual page, you watch some of this, and you can see in this character, creator screen, or not creator screen, the inventory screen for Assassin's Creed, top right, you're looking at the store prompt. Now, obviously, if you ever played an Assassin's Creed game recently, you notice the store prompt takes you to time saver packs, double XP packs, you're talking about cosmetics, you're talking about actual in-game items that can make the game easier or change things, expansion packs, a whole bunch of things. So this one game that obviously has been adjusting and games have been getting more expensive, this $80 game effectively becomes somewhere around $100 if you're somebody that is buying an expansion pack at the very least, or somebody that chooses to buy a cosmetic. Why you would buy a cosmetic in a single-player game when you can simply use something like Cheat Engine is honestly beyond me, but I'm not going to teach you how to do it. I'm sure YouTube's TOS would be against it. I probably shouldn't even be mentioning it. Now, obviously, in amongst all of these games, you're always given like digital deluxe versions as well too. Like, for instance, this one game called Avowed recently released, and not just Avowed, but games like Starfield, games like Hogwarts Legacy, games like a Dragonician. A lot of games have had early access releases, so instead of buying the base game, if you decided to spend $20 extra, so now you're entering that $100 price premium, that digital deluxe edition, you can get the game like a couple days earlier. So that whole analyst shit where we'll give you GTA currency and that could be the incentive for players, no, you're effectively getting a few early days of access, which realistically I guess may be differently worth to some people depending on what their day-to-day timings look like or what their schedules are like. But you've got early access being sold, which really doesn't cost anything as much as it is for the game developer over here or the publisher. You just get a few days early access on a digital released game. And beyond that, you might get access to a skin or two. And in this case, you can see it right over here, right? You can buy the game Avowed for like $90, right? Which is, again, the price in Canada. Again, $80 for Americans. That is just the base game. For the actual game development over here for the game publishers, a $20 price tag or $30 in Canadian bucks equates to getting 2 sets of bonus skins and a digital art book and original soundtrack. Now, obviously, should you pay $120 for a video game, ladies and gentlemen? I think that really is dependent on you. But to say that video games should cost $100, I firmly do disagree. Now, this is a simple way for the gaming industry to kind of jump a little earlier. Instead of waiting for that next generation to come in, just knock up the price an extra $10, and that's just for the base price. One bullshit thing that I've always heard in the video game industry is one day we're going to pass off the savings to consumers, right? When digital games became a thing, I swear back in the day it was always billed with, hey, physical games cost us a lot of money to actually put together and distribute, versus putting a file up on a server and letting people download it en masse. But did you get any saving between digital or physical release? No. If you go to the physical store right now, if you go to a Walmart, you spend the same amount of money that somebody spends on a digital storefront like Steam, like PlayStation Network, like Xbox Live. And you literally get no actual difference in MSRP or any pricing. Except the person with the physical disc has the actual physical game on the disc, unless, you're dealing with a shitty publisher that doesn't choose to have the game on the disc. I'm looking at you, Microsoft. And that's pretty much what it comes down to, right? The savings never get passed off. That's not how this industry or any industry works. If they're pricing something at $100, and even if it's digital, it doesn't matter. The prices are going to be the same. In fact, for digital, it's even better. That's pure fucking profit for these guys. That's why the industry wants to take away physical gaming as much as they can, or make it so inconvenient that you just go to digital gaming. And so you're spending the same money, putting more pure profit into the pockets of these publishers, and effectively they get to run away with laughing all the way to the bank. And then, of course, when it comes to premium copies of games like this, a $90 game, right? That is the base price right now. If that base price jumps up to $100, like some of these industry veterans are creaming for, what happens to that digital deluxe pricing? What happens to the legendary pricing? What happens to the collector's edition pricing? I mean, forget the collector's edition. That's usually like a $300 thing for some fucking person that's really enamored with a certain game. But that digital deluxe edition, which I'm sure that the gaming industry is finding so many ways to turn as a primary buy for most people, that also jumps up. It's a very wild thing that I keep reading, this super interesting, analyst prediction of GTA turning $100, because in reality, it's not about GTA. It's about every other game in the AAA space, or now the quadruple A space, being valued and priced at $100, and then everything else jumping across the board. And this is still in an industry where now most video games that you buy, kind of, in my opinion, at least the AAA live servicey stuff, serves as sort of like a shopping mall for bigger and bigger purchases, right? Like, you end up buying a video game, right? You buy a video game, and then you have to constantly be greeted with like ads for the expansion packs, battle passes, multiple microtransaction flavors, beyond anything. It's not a point for these big AAA groups to at least sell you a base game and just provide you a solid quality product without thinking of how many ways they can find out how to monetize it, to the point where it's just off-putting to the average consumer. It's one of the reasons why for a lot of these publishers that I don't think they can even get away with $100 games when there are so many publishers, so many AA games or independent games where, a lot of good games are created and they're sold to people for respectable prices, far and away from the greed of modern like AAA publishers or quadruple A publishers like Ubisoft, where I don't think they can really get away with this, but it's this desire of $100 that they want. Ultimately speaking, though, I really do want video games in some morbid way to be $100, because if anything can accelerate a video game crash in the highest sector, it's probably this level of blatant price gouging. But if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.